All right, so we are working on compound inequalities and we're solving them. So, compound, that word, you should be thinking of language arts, at least I do. And when I hear compound sentences. And what that reminds me of is the and, the but, the or, and all of those kind of things. And in math, it's not much different, only we keep it simple. We're working with and or only. So, compound inequalities are going to be something that is like separated by an and or an or. Here's my very first example. X is greater than 2 and x is less than or equal to 4. Well, let's think of each one of those individually. X is greater than 2, we know that. Open circle at 2, and all the values for x are more than 2, so it's shaded to the right. And separately, x is less than or equal to 4. That means that it's a closed circle on 4 because it's equal to it, and all the values of x are also to the left because they're less than it. Now, if I need both, it needs to be more than 2, but less than or equal to 4. Well, there's only a small amount of numbers that are both and, right? We need the and. So all the values that are more than 2, but less than or equal to 4 is between 2 and 4. So I have an open circle at 2, a closed circle at 4, and from here I'm going to the right, and from here I'm going to the left. So they kind of just merge into each other to make this small little segment here. The values of x that are greater than 2 and less than or equal to 4. And if you notice, when we have an and, we're going to have this compound inequality. It's not going to be separated like I have up here. It'll be like down here. This is me showing you, but you're never going to see it like this. Your answers are going to look like this. And if you always go numerically, it's always going to be the first number, then the second number, and then the x goes in the middle every time. And it has to be that it's greater than the smaller number, but less than or possibly equal or not than the larger number. All right, so that's our and we'll get some more practice in a moment. Let's look at our or scenario, and that's something like x is less than or equal to -1 or x is greater than 3. So if I have my number line, and I use the same number line right away for this one, if x is less than or equals to -1, it's closed circle at -1, all the values to the left of it, or x is greater than 3, that's an open circle at 3 with all the values greater than it. So I've got my statement, and there's nothing to put together for an or.
You already did the ID check?
Nothing to put together for an or. And you'll see that it separates like this. They'll always go away from each other. So big hint, and goes in, or goes out. If you have it the opposite, there's something wrong. All right, here's our another type of problem that we're going to work with, and this is really like my just showing you what we're doing, and here's an actual problem that you'll see problems like. Number 1, all real numbers that are less than -1 or greater than or equal to 4. So there's a lot of ors that could trip us up that we shouldn't pay attention to. My first thing I underline is whenever I see a greater than or equal to, and I'm even going to put these little like marks to go up. This is all greater than or equal to. I know that symbol, greater than or equal to, right? That represents this. And what number? 4. Okay, all real numbers is just a variable. So you can call it anything. I'm going to call it x. So we need that are less than -1. Less than -1. Less than, I did that the backwards way. Less than -1. Or greater than or equal to 4. So it's an or statement. Is it going to be together like an and or a separated like an or? It's an or, so it's going to be separated. So I have x is greater than or equal to 4, or x is less, I did it backwards, less than -1. And because I wrote that one first, I'm going to switch it to write it over here, and I'm going to erase this. It doesn't have to be in order, but I want to stay consistent. So less than -1 or greater than or equal to 4. So I wrote x twice. If you were to graph it, you would see that it's greater or equal to 4. Say that's 4. And then say -1's over here. Less than -1. And it would be an or statement. They would go away from each other. Okay. My next slide that I'm working with is similar to this. I've got all real numbers up here. Number 2, all real numbers that are greater than or equal to -3 and less than 5. Try this one, pause the video and then hit play. All real numbers that are greater than or equal to -3 and less than 5. Well, less than 5, less than 5. And then I've got greater than or equal to. That's one statement. Greater than or equal to -3. And I've got an and. So I know that I need to write this in order. So I'm putting my x in the middle. It needs to be in order numerically, which is smaller, -3 or 5. So I put my -3 here and my 5 here. And now I just got to take each piece at a time. X is greater than or equal to -3. So from this point of view, greater than or equal to -3. It's backwards. X is greater than or equal to -3. And x is less than 5. That's my answer. All right. Number 3, 4, and then I have 2 more after that. 5 and 6 are actually solving equations and graphing them. And this is the bulk of the lesson. So pause the video to write any directions, yada, yada, yada. So I have here 2 inequalities. Those do not go away. So don't do anything silly other than writing them again. I have to get my x alone, right? So I need to eliminate by subtracting 5, but I don't have just both sides. I actually have 3 sides. I have my 2 and my 9 that I need to subtract from. If you miss one of them, you got it wrong, right? 2 minus 5 is -3. 9 minus 5 is 4. So I have from -3 up to +4. So I wrote, because it said to graph the solution, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 marks. If I start here at -3, I don't think I'm going to get to 4, so I'm going to go by odds. Maybe I'll start at -4, -2, 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, and I've got x has to be greater than -3. It's an open circle. That's going to fall on me. Okay, it's an open circle at -3 and all the values greater than it. And then less than 4, it's an open circle at 4 and all the values less than it. So it's in between these two, like that. All right, for this one, again, I've got this and scenario where it's all combined. So I'm not going to make those disappear. They're both going to stay. But now I have 2 steps that I have to do to y to get it alone. I subtract 4 from all, and I get 6z is less than or equal to 2y is less than or equal to 20. I divide by 2, and I get 3, I'll write it right over here, is less than or equal to y is less than or equal to 10. So I'm going from 3 to 10, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It works. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have a closed circle at 3, all the values that are greater than 3 and less than 10. So from 3 to 10. Awesome. All right. Number 5 and 6, as I told you, we will have 2 more. One of them being an and that last one being an or. The or, you just got to do both parts, right? So for here, I'm adding 1 to all 3 areas, and I get -6 is less than -z is less than 4. Tricky here. I've got to get rid of this -z, which is really a -1z. So I divide by -1. There's a rule. We need to remember that rule. When you divide by a negative, your inequalities flip. Yes, that happens here too. So I have 6 is greater than z is greater than -4, so I'm flipping this so it's still in order. -4 is less than z is less than 6, and I'm going from -4, -2, 0, 2, 4, 6, and I have open circle, and it's in the middle. All right, my last one here, I have an or scenario. And so what that means is I just need to do each part at a time. So the first part, 3x minus 2 is less than or equal to -11. We've done that. It's a 2-step equation. I add 2. 3x is then less than or equal to -9. Divide by 3, and I have x is less than or equal to -3. Over here, I can't forget about it. I have 2x plus 8 is greater than 16. I subtract 8. Both sides, 2x is greater than 8, divide by 2, x is greater than 4, or in the middle, so greater than -3, no, less than -3, so let's call that -3, and greater than 4, hey, that worked out. So I have a closed circle, it's an or, all those values are less than it, it's an open circle, all those values are greater than it should be going away because it's an or. Awesome.